Yeah, His Excellency, Deputy Prime Minister Executive, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I would also like the organizers to put up my presentation. I'm clearly pleased to have the opportunity to provide some up-to-date views on the global commodity market from the German perspective in particular. Thank you. According to the general outline of the conference, I will restrict myself to mineral resources. As we all know, mineral-like energy resources are indispensable to satisfy basic human needs. They are essential in house and infrastructure building, and they are embedded in numerous products of daily life, from toothpaste to fertilizer to countless technological achievements. For decades, the worldwide demand for natural resources is increasing. The most significant reasons are the growth of economics and population. In about 50 developing countries, mineral and energy resources are important export goods, representing an essential factor of national economies. Rare earths are just one example of commodities that have gained particular attention in the course of the last decades. They are increasingly used as catalysts for the fabrication of special types of glass, as polishing agents in metallurgy, for supermagnets, illuminants, for special purpose ceramics, and many other purposes. The increase in demand is not only due to emerging economies, but also because we have been more inventive in designing new products for a wide range of applications. Rare earth ores are applied in numerous high-technology fields, and that is why they are sometimes named high-tech materials, together with gallium, germanium, indium, and tantalum. Over the past years, especially the demand for catalysts, alloys, magnets, and illuminants has increased. Germany is a country having quite a selection of commodities by itself. But Germany is also highly dependent on the import of certain natural resources, in particular fossil energy resources and ores or metals. The value of all commodities imported in 2011 amounts to 140 billion euros or 180 billion US dollars, roughly two-thirds of which is expended for energy resources and one-third for the resources required by the metal and manufacturing industry. And please note that approximately 3.6 million workers are employed in the German metal industry, comprising more than 23,000 companies. There often is a saying that commodities are scarce on earth. However, this has to be looked at in a more distinguished way. Geologists are continuously providing evidence that the Earth's crust has still huge amounts of raw materials, many of which we even do not yet know. Vast parts of the geological subsurface are still underexplored. In fact, we occasionally do experience scarcity in the supply of commodities. Technical availability, that is, whether we have sufficient mining capacities, transport infrastructure, metallurgical plants, etc., may be limited. We may also suffer from a slow responsibility to substitute, recycle, or reduce the use of commodities in our production chains. However, in real life, most critical matters appear to be market or geostrategic risks because the supply may be granted from a few companies or countries only. And these providers usually know well about their strategic potential. There exists a classification of so-called critical mineral resources. Here we have listed metal ores, refined metals, and industrial minerals. Commodities in the reddish part of the diagram are also referred to as critical because they are produced by a small number of companies or countries only, or because the relevant producing countries are ranked as risky by the aggregated government index of the World Bank Group. In 2008, the supplies of rare earth elements, of germanium, of antimony, tungsten, platinum, niobium were considered as rather critical and partly are still so today. If high regional concentration goes along with a high country risk, problems of delivery might occur. We find this, for example, with rare earths, tungsten, and antimony, while with lithium and tantalum, the country risk is low. For light rare earth elements, the supply risk appears to have eased recently. A look on the world map with distribution of reserves and resources of rare earth ores shows why. Significant reserves are in China, Russia, other, mainly Central Asian countries, the US, and Australia. Considering the resources, we clearly realize that the Earth's crust still carries enormous options. In principle, a handful of producing mines can supply the whole world for a long time, but refinery plants need to offer sufficient capacity as well. I mentioned the aggregated government index of the World Bank Group. It is shown here as for 2010. Indicators are accountability, political stability, absence of violence, government effectiveness, control of corruption, regulatory quality and rule of law. The aggregated index tells much about the confidence which agents have when assessing their business risks and trading with individual countries. BGR, the Federal Institute of Geosciences and Natural Resources of Germany, together with its partner Geological Surveys and the German Chamber of International Commerce, as well as Germany Trade and Invest, is working on a series of reports on commodities and the commodity potential of several countries for selected mineral resources. The countries are Australia, Canada, Chile, Kazakhstan, Mongolia, Russia, South Africa, and the Arctic, including Greenland. We report in particular on those commodities that are of primary interest to the German industry, and Central Asia as well on our screen. Yet, at the end, each company will have to decide by itself on any investment to secure its specific needs. Within the frame of the Kazakh-German Raw Materials Partnership, agreed on the government level in 2011, BGR experts have repeatedly come to Kazakhstan and had extensive talks with our partners of the Geological Survey of Kazakhstan, the Geological Committee in Astana. We have jointly screened the extensive data volume available in this country. We have surveyed a number of projects by on-site inspections, and we have started to write up an investor's handbook, taking into account the specific needs of the German industry. By this, potential investors have the opportunity to obtain an independent assessment of the situation of commodities in Kazakhstan. Actually, Germany has a similar partnership agreement with the government of Mongolia. In about 50 developing countries, mineral and energy resources are important export goods, representing an essential factor of national economies. Exploitation of geological resources, however, is and has always been a threefold challenge. First, risk of highly unsteady prices, creating problems for those countries that are strongly dependent on the export of natural resources. We have, as you know, experienced remarkable changes in commodity prices within the last decade. Second, exploitation of natural resources always interferes with the environment. And third, mismanagement and corruption result in only a minor part of the population benefiting from such resources. At the worst, the revenues are used to finance armed conflicts. In our understanding, the handling of resources is essential and vital. Wise handling includes A. Transparent grants of concessions. B. Responsible management of resources revenues. C. Appropriate participation of the population. And D. Restoration and reclamation of mining land. Accordingly, interaction between different stakeholders is very necessary. The industry has to care about the sustainable supply of raw materials it needs to manufacture its products. The government sets the political framework for fair trade in recognition of the interests of all relevant agents. Government institutions provide independent advice, for instance, on the availability of commodities. Researchers continue to optimize technologies to extract the desired minerals as efficient as possible. And the society needs to be involved for acceptance of projects that may influence their living conditions. In such a way, developing the natural resources sector can be favorable for a country's infrastructure, increase the employment level, set up new branches of economy, and thus improve the living conditions. To finish, I will mention BGR's view on the present situation on high-tech metals. According to geology, we do not realize any shortages. Shortages and the supply risks, if they do exist, are rather caused by the market situation. High-tech metals are mostly co-elements. I did not focus on this aspect so far, but as it is well known, their production depends on the extraction of major elements like lead, tin, and copper. Significant potential does exist in old mining dumps, namely for germanium, gallium, and indium. Technical solutions for the extraction of co-elements by metallurgical treatment is urgently needed. For instance, to obtain germanium from coal ash. Given the present level of commodity prices, the production of unconventional deposits like marine mineral resources is likely to come in the foreseeable future. More research and development of cost-effective recycling technologies and recycle-friendly design of products is required to satisfy the global demand for precious mineral resources on the long term. And this concludes my talk. Thank you very much indeed.